to be exact. We picked for the execution excellence categories. The core value is valuing workforce members and partners.
Okay.
So there are 3 ways actually that the organization demonstrates its core values. The first one is the workforce recognition and reward programs. For example, it's Best Employee Awards for different workforce segments. And the second one is the workforce development funds for all the workforce segments. So we have funds. And the third one is the health and benefit programs, like, for example, flu immunizations, metabolic programs to evaluate your health. And also we have fitness centers, group exercises, and also expedite access to hospitals' health services. So those are the 3 ways of demonstrating this core value.
Okay. And what are the barriers?
3 barriers. A workforce performance evaluation system is too generic and not responding to current and future strategic goals.
Okay.
That's the first one. The second one is the compensations do not reflect the actual results of the performance evaluation. There are other factors. And the third one is the workforce development plans are not systematic enough and are not tightly coupled with the organization's long-term goals, strategic goals.
Okay.
The actions are as follows. The first one is to develop tailor-made approaches for evaluating departmental and individual performance in alignment with the organization's strategic objectives, mission, and vision. The second one is to review and revise support systems for aligning compensation, reward, and recognition programs to support performance goals and objectives. The third one is to develop systematic workforce development plans that tightly couple with the organization's long-term strategic goal.
Okay, so they have 3 actions. Okay. The first is the performance management plan, like performance evaluation system, so that it's more aligned with the strategic goals. Okay. Then the second has to deal with the compensation system, aligning the compensation system to the performance management plan. By the way, that's not almost every university that I work with has that problem. Has that problem. So, and the third one is the development plan, right?
Right, the workforce development plan.
Workforce development plan.
Right.
Okay. So you can work on that further. In fact, when you get to category 5, that might be one of the OFIs, the areas, opportunities for improvement that you might want to address. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Give them a hand. Okay. The second group to raise their hand was Swan Dusit. Okay.
From Sundasit University, Sundasit Rajapat University, the core value that we choose is visionary leadership, and the 3 ways, including setting goal clear. And the second one is communicating through several channels. And the third is inspiring staff by being a role model. And barriers are, the first one is staff not clear the way they are going to. And the second is receivers are unable to decode the message sent by top leaders. And the third one is some could not follow. And action need to be done to overcome the barrier. They are only 2 because they can apply for all barriers. The first one is building more involvement by own concern, and the second one is building knowledge in line with the frame of reference.
So who will build knowledge? The senior leaders, or who? Is there a...
Senior leaders.
The senior leaders will have to, okay.
They have
So,
to clarify.
so it's so the whole theme revolves around clarifying the communication, making communication more like one of the best practices that you would find under visionary leadership is not only that you set and deploy, but also you feed the word, you cascade down, and then you go, it cycles up too. Okay, so 2-way communication. Okay, thank you. Okay. So, yes, at the back, we got now which university? Ubon. Okay.
From Ubon Ratchathani University, for core value that we choose today is focus on the future. And 3 ways of our organization demonstrated this value is: 1, the senior leaders set the organization vision for 5 years plan and give a communication. And 2, leaders deploy the organization vision to strategic plan and action plan. And 3, the measurement and improvement and strategic plan. We have this method already. But the barrier for the first one is just only some workforce understand our communication that we gave them. And
very similar to what they found.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And the second one is for another way is the current work do not support the organization direction. And the third one is
not much different from what they found. But they talk about the performance appraisal in your case work.
Yes.
Okay.
The third one of the barrier is the leader does not regularly check and improve the strategic plan. For the action and organization, we need the leaders regularly determine a clear direction for our organization and workforce, and have more communication. And the second action is the faculty should improve the action plans constantly to ensure the achievement of strategic goals and the excellence of the results. And the third one is the leaders regularly check to ensure the organization work and the future work fully support the direction that they give.
Okay, so this is a question of, is it execution? Most of what you talked about, pardon? Follow-up, really. It's really more like execution. There's a strategy, there's a strategic plan, but it ended in the shelves, right? Yeah, it ended in the shelves. Okay, so there was really no follow-up. So and if I can just make a comment that's common to all 3. Okay, at the end of the day, if the strategic plan or the action plan is not translated to money, budgets, okay, then you don't see that linkage. Because you see, the failure of most strategic planning efforts is that not that people do not know how to do strategic plan. To do strategic plan, it's a skill that can be learned, okay? And you can learn, you can read books about it, but where it normally fails is that it does not get executed. Because usually from my experience, what happens is once you have a strategic plan in place already, documented, the report, okay, thick report, it's already assumed that it will just go, you know, like it will be automatically implemented, okay? But there's no such thing as an automatic implementation of plans. You have to allocate resources in order to ensure that the plan gets implemented. And that's really that's when it bogs down. Now, if the performance appraisal system does not get translated into compensation, implications for compensation, then whether you do good or do bad, okay, it doesn't make any difference. So you got to tie the performance appraisal to compensation so that it really be meaningful. Of course, you know these things, okay? We all know these things, but it's often easier said than done, okay, in practice. And it really requires the will from the very senior levels of leadership to actually make this happen. There is a saying that in an educational institution, the curriculum is the spirit of the university, and the budget is the conscience of the university. The budget is eventually what the university is about, you know, where you put your money, where you put your resources. That's eventually where it is. So one of the biggest failures, at least in many educational institutions, is that the strategic plan and the resource allocation are disjointed. There is no connection between the two. And that's a leadership problem. That's the biggest contribution that a senior leader could make. Okay? It's not strategic planning. It's actually the biggest contribution that any senior leader could make, any new president can make, is to ensure that the budgets reflect the strategic plans that have been formulated. Okay? Okay, so next group. Okay, at Yale University.
The first one, core value of the strategic leadership that our team from Hat Yai University chose is focus on the future. We address 3 ways to achieve that. The first one, we need clear visions of the university, and the barrier to achieve these clear vision, we need to, now we don't have clear measures of criteria to achieve this vision. And the action that we think we should take is to provide operational definition of the vision. And the second way to achieve focus on the future is about two-way communication, because now the barriers about two-way communication is how we can communicate all the key messages of clear vision to every segments of workforce, like different workforce, gardeners, securities, or high rank administrator, middle rank administrator. We should have different ways or channels to communicate with them, and so far we don't do it appropriately. So to overcome these barriers, we should set up an efficient communication plan. And the third one of 3 ways, we think about assessment and improvement. The barrier about this is now we in the university, maybe we don't have a kind of some units or some organization of university can complete the PDCA plan, but some units cannot do that. So we think the action we need to take is to assess this plan every quarter or as often as possible, depending on the urgency of matters like that. Yeah, thank you.
So there's a lot of overlap, right? There's a lot of commonality now, but they introduce one more thing, the importance of measurement. Okay? There's a saying that nothing gets done unless it is measured. Okay? If you want to get something done, then you need to have a measurement for it. Okay? In fact, that was attributed to, I think, Lord Kelvin. I think it came from Lord Kelvin. You know, he's a chemist, right? You know, the Kelvin temperature. You know, so it's very important that whatever goals that you set, that you set. I go back to the good coffee example. Okay, you need to have you need to have an acceptable definition that could be quantified, that could be measured of good coffee. Okay, and if it's something as simple as good coffee, it needs to be quantified. So much so with the more novel things that we're involved with in education, like how do you know that your students learn? Okay, do you have student learning outcomes? Okay, for every course, right? Okay. Do you have a measurement for each one of those? Do you have student learning outcomes for your degree program? And do you have a measurement for each one of those? You see, the problem that we often have in universities is that we have so many student learning outcomes. Okay, for degree programs and so on. My rule of thumb is that any degree program should have no more than 5 student learning outcomes. because you need to measure each one of those. Okay? And Y5, at least in the US, Y5, we get reviewed for accreditation every 5 years. So if I have 5 student learning outcomes, I can make an attempt to systematically evaluate each one once a year. So I'll have an evaluation for each one. So in a 5-year cycle, in a 5-year time frame, I will have evaluated all of my 5 student learning outcomes. Okay? Okay. You're next, right? Okay. UTCC. Okay, yes. Yeah. Got a long name, so I said UTCC.
Okay. We're from University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce, and we have discussed a lot about the co-value training to execution excellence. And the core value we chose is customer-driven excellence. And the three ways our organization demonstrate this value are: the first one, we think about voice of customer, and number 2, we care about the curriculum development, and the third one, we talk about technology change and innovation, and the barriers which we need to overcome are: number 1, about the voice of customer. We think about the percentage of response. It's quite low. It may be because of Thai culture to respond this kind of questionnaire, and our customer or student culture to respond the questionnaire, like we choose number 3, the medium, at the medium level.
Always 3.
Yeah.
Not too low, not too high.
Yes. And about the curriculum development, our barriers should be different requirements between customer and stakeholders. Number 3, the barrier of technological change and innovation, the rapid change in technology nowadays, and the way we adapt ourselves to that technology. And the action, about the action. Okay, the first action is we always check satisfaction and dissatisfaction levels of our customer and stakeholder about our working process. And number 2, we check the needs of customer and stakeholder every year. And number 3, we use hybrid learning system in teaching and learning.
Hybrid, you mean face-to-face and online?
Yeah.
Okay, so they introduce another dimension here. So the role of technologies, okay, in ensuring customer-driven excellence, and also the difficulty in collecting data, because all of them will say 3, on the 5-point scale. Okay. I think it's a common problem regarding. But there are many other ways by which you could collect. If that is a problem that is pervasive, then you can also collect data on customer expectations and requirements by having a focus group. Okay, focus group. So let me give you some examples. Okay, so when we were doing curriculum development, okay, we were doing a major curriculum development of our undergraduate program in business when I was dean. We actually engaged a focus group of 10 HR human resource directors. Okay. These are people who hire, who hire our graduates. And instead of sending a questionnaire to, let's say, 100 companies, okay, and some of them will respond, some will not, so we just chose 10 HR directors who are the major employers, and we asked them to meet with us for about 2 hours. Of course, we had to buy them lunch. We have got to give them all perks. Like, for instance, you know that those of us who are academics, we take our libraries for granted, right? Because we always have access to the library. We have access to the library's databases and so on. When you know that when you don't belong to an educational institution, you know how expensive it is to access those databases? Okay? So that was our reward. So when they participate, okay, so we gave them 1 year access to our library's databases. Okay? Okay, so you need to have something like a not payment, but something that they really value. Okay? We could have given them an honorarium, but I think they would value more the fact that they could access the databases of the library. Okay? Especially if you're an HR director. Okay? So there's a wealth of that information that they could access. And so we just ask them open-ended questions. What are you looking for? Okay? What's, the problem with, especially in my field in business, or in your fields too, technical information gets obsolete, becomes out of date. 2 years. Half of what our students learn this year. 2 years from now, it's out of date. Okay? It's true in any technical field. Okay? The more technical the field is, the shorter, okay, the time span. Okay? So 2 years is just an overall average. In fact, I've even read something like, now that is 72 hours in some fields like computing and so on. Okay, we ask the question, our graduates now, our students now, by the time that they work, they will probably be working in occupations that we haven't thought of. Okay? That many of our graduates now, many of our students now, by the time that they graduate, they will be working in occupations that do not yet exist. Okay? And so, the best people, okay, who would know what those occupations might be are those who do the hiring. Okay? So that's one of the first questions that we ask. And then we actually televised, we did a CCTV of that session so that we can actually record, we can actually take copious notes. So we can just concentrate on the conversations that occurred in that meeting. And that was a very meaningful exercise. And it only costed us what? Lunch and 1 year access to the library databases, which do not cost us anything. Because it's already paid for by the university. So you're just adding 10 more users. Okay. Now, there was a comment earlier about how you might propagate, how you might have more of these communications with by senior leaders. I do not know. I can share with you what happens in my university, for instance. So I'm the university provost. So every month I have what we call the conversations with the provost, and it's lunchtime, and in America, say free lunch, they will all go. I do not know whether they're there for the conversation with me or for the lunch, but it has been very meaningful. So it was my opportunity to share with our faculty, with our staff, even with our custodial staff, okay, what is going on, okay, what is going on. And then every 2 months, it's the president's turn. So every 2 months, the president has her, she called it a different thing. It's pizza with the president. Okay, so pizza. So lunchtime again, but this time it's pizza. Okay. I only wish that she would do it differently because I'm allergic to milk. I'm lactose intolerant, so I cannot appreciate the pizza with the president. But that is her way. So again, it's a way by which they could actually communicate more with the faculty and staff. And then she does it also with the student body. So it's like a town hall meeting. Initially, when we did those town hall meetings, you can guess what is it that they all they all come up, they talk about, they complain about how expensive the tuition is because we're a private school. They complain about they're not getting their money's worth. But after about one year of doing that, okay, then the nature, the tone of the conversation has changed. Okay? Because when we start sharing with them, you know what, you pay us this kind of tuition, but these are the kinds of expenses that we have. You see that there's a new building being built. You see that we added new classes. Okay? You see that our advising offices are open after 5 o'clock in the evening, that you can actually stay, you can get advising up to 8 o'clock in the evening. So you actually share with them those innovations that you did. That's hardly innovations, those changes that you did. And so the nature of the conversation has changed. Okay, we have 2 more groups to report. Yes?
From Khon
KK.
We are Faculty of Medicine. The core value that we select is visionary leadership. 3 ways our organization demonstrates are firstly, set direction, secondly, communication, and the third, encourage workforce environment. The set direction, our values are the direction that we select is not address all factors that including customer or stakeholder requirements or expectation, the marketing requirement, the workforce or operating environment. So that's effect to the strategic and objective planning. And the secondly, the communication, like because our vision is to be the top of the 150 in Asia in the year 2020. So the communication is misleading just only in the research area. And the third, encourage workforce environment, because we have recognition and performance pay, but it's not tied with the performance excellence goal or strategy. Yeah, that's the look like of Chiang Mai University.
Oh, you know what? You should learn from each other too. Yes, because that's the foundation of benchmarking. You know, you learn together. So, what is it that they did that worked? Maybe you can share with them, and then what is it that you did that worked, and they can share with them. So, okay. And the actions.
And the action that we propose that the strategy planning process need to be revised, and the overall indicator and individual KPI need to be established. And we have to cascade our individual KPI to the workforce, and tie with the individual performance achievement to the performance goal and strategy, and based on compensation, reward, and recognition on individual KPI achievement.
Okay. So now you focus now on measurement, okay, KPIs, which is quite similar to what Hat Yai University said. So there's a lot of commonality here in this room, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to learn from each other in terms of the practices. Okay, good. Okay, the last group. You are what separates us from lunch.
Last group from Hidra University, the model that we are going to use is Faculty of Science. The core value pertaining to strategic leadership that we show is systems perspective. We did not choose it because it is easy, because this is the tough one, I think. 3 ways
you are courageous because that is the most difficult one.
Yeah,
all the core values to understand.
Okay. Is the most difficult. Okay. 3 ways our organization demonstrate. We show 3 strategic issues. The first one is research excellence. what the demonstration is the system to increase and sustain the international quality research output productivity. The barrier for this one is the engagement and cooperation of workforce and the uncertain budget funding and also the funding that is not matched the one who is interested in cooperation. The second categories is the strategic issues is the teaching and learning excellence, which was development of modern graduate curriculum. The barrier is the clear goal and direction of the curriculum to be developed, and the lack of agility in certain aspects, and also the difficulty for academic staff to move fast enough to compete with world stage. The third issue that we chose is academic service excellence. The Faculty of Science, for Faculty of Science, academic service is not the core competency. It's not our core competency, but we do have academic service. The barrier to accomplish the success in academic service are there are varieties of academic service, but no systematic data collection. So our action plans are.
You will have a long list of action plans there.
No, just three of them. Just three of them.
Okay. Yeah,
the action plans for research excellence to review the work system for research support system, and also review the criteria for the support measures based on the success outcome and need expectation of workforce.
Okay.
The second, for the development of modern curricula, is to communicate goals of modern curricula to academic staff, to employ peers and experts to help and support. And the third one, for academic service, is important to create an efficient system to identify potential of academic staff for academic service according to our core competency, prioritize them, and then choose what we need to do. Just three of them.
Yeah, you utilized one particular terminology that I heard over and over again, that's core competency. Okay? So it's something that we will cover in greater length this afternoon when we talk about organizational profile. So the systems perspective, I said, it's perhaps the most difficult one to tackle, because on a higher level, on a 60,000 foot view, systems perspective essentially means all of the processes and systems and methods of the organization are aligned, okay, with the organization's goals, the strategic challenges, and the core competence, okay, and at the same time, these systems, these methods are all aligned with each other, okay. So it's aligned up, okay, and then aligned with each other. Aligned with each other is what we mean by integration, okay, in the Baldrige and TQA sense. So that's one way of looking at the systems perspective. And so when you then look at the systems perspective, it's quite natural that you're looking at different processes that cut across the entire criteria. In fact, if there is one core value that you find in every category, it's the systems perspective. Okay? You'll find that in every category, not only one. Then the other part of the systems perspective is the concept of a system itself. A system is a set of interrelated elements working together to get to one objective. And so it is because of the systems perspective that when you try to define world class or performance excellence, there is no such thing as a TQA only for leadership, or a TQA only for strategic planning, or a TQA only for customer focus. That's actually for the entire set of processes that the organization has. So it's a totality of those as opposed to those individual functions. Okay, well, thank you very much for all of your report. And the time is, someone give, 12:20? Oh, we exceeded our time allotment. Oh, I don't carry a watch anymore. So 12:16 by my time. So please, let's have our lunch, and let's be back at 1:20. 1:20. Okay.
อาหารนะคะอาจารย์อยู่ที่ห้องดนตรีนะคะขึ้นบันไดมี2 ชั้น
นั้นเนี่ยก็สิ่งที่เราอยากเห็นก็คือว่าพรุ่งนี้ตามเวลาก็ครึบครับแล้วก็กฎข้อหนึ่งในเรื่องของ listening ใช่ไหมตรงนั้นก็อยากจะฝากพวกเรานิดนึงนะครับเพราะว่าเราอยากจะทำให้เหมือนกับเวลา EQA อาจารย์จะได้รู้สึกว่ามันน่าท้าทายนะครับงั้นเนี่ยมันจะเป็นอะไรที่ไม่เหมือนคือผมมาครั้งแรกที่ตอนเข้าครั้งแรกหลายปีก่อนก็รู้สึกอย่างนี้พลาดไม่ได้แม้แต่นาทีเดียวเพราะไม่งั้นโดนปิดประตูไม่ให้เข้านะครับเราจะโดนออกจากระบบงั้นในทุกคนก็เป๊ะนะครับก็ฝากรบกวนแล้วกันว่าเนื่องจากเป็นการเรียนรู้อย่างเข้มข้นงั้นเราก็หวังว่าเราจะจำลองนะครับตรงนี้เรามาสู่แล้วจะเอากระบวนการตรงนี้เนี่ยเอาไปใช้ในการทำงานแล้วก็ในเรื่องของการนำeducation ในไทยเข้าไปสู่ระบบของพวกเราทุกๆคนแล้วเราจะไปด้วยกันตอนนี้เราก็ไปด้วยกันทุกการทานข้าวที่ไหนเข้าไปที่ชั้นเปิดเดิน
อาจารย์ที่บันไดไว้2 ชั้นนะคะห้องเดิมที่เราเคยมารับประทานอาหารกันนะคะห้องปกติเดี๋ยวจะมีเจ้าหน้าที่นำไปค่ะอาจารย์แล้วเราจะกลับมาพบกันอีกทีตอน 8:20